Hello friends, today I'm going to talk about how we can use pod security admission in Azure Kubernetes Service. Pod security admission is a feature that is available in AKS to enforce pod security standard policies, which is a feature that is in Kubernetes. So pod security standard is a way of implementing security standards around the Kubernetes workloads. So in pod security standard, we have different profiles available. In each profile, they have different policies included as cumulative policies included as those profiles. So each profile has their own way of restricting and hardening the workloads. So in Kubernetes, basically we have three profiles. One is privileged, baseline, and restricted. So privilege means actually you have unrestricted access. So it is more unrestricted way of applying pod security standards. So that means it will have less it has a more wide possibility of providing the widest possibility of permissions, right? And it can be it can allow privilege escalations for your workloads. So the baseline is the next profile that we can talk about. It is the minimal restrictive policy which prevents for the non-privilege escalations. So baseline will apply the minimal specified pod configurations for your workloads. Then we have restricted is heavily restricted policy and it is following the pod hardening best practices for your workloads. So what are these different standards that are in these different profiles? For example, if you already work with Kubernetes security context, right? So the pod security standards also use in the security context for different workloads. So they are used in different security contexts such as host network allows, or the host PID access, or IPC access, such as, for example, right? Apart from different profiles, they use capabilities, allow capabilities or deny specific capabilities. So likewise, they are using security context for your workloads, right? So if you think that we need to harden our workloads in Kubernetes, then you can use these predefined profiles in pod security standards. So these restrictions and hardening mechanisms will be applied for your workload. So therefore you don't need to individually configure different pod security contexts and those additional hardening mechanism for each of your workloads, right? So yeah, let's take a look at how we can do pod security standard through pod security admission in Kubernetes, Azure Kubernetes Service. So Azure Kubernetes Service already enabled with pod security standards, right, through pod security admissions, right? Therefore we can use the predefined profiles that are available in the pod security standards. So we can use on baseline, then the restrictive and the privilege profiles for AKS as well. Okay, so before I go into the demo, let's take a look at how we can implement the pod security standard. So basically pod security standard is applied based on the specific labels, right? So you need to apply those specific labels into your namespaces. So there are different type of labels available. For example, if you want to audit the pod security standards, then you have specific labels. Then if you want to enforce it, then you have specific labels, right? So we will go through these different type of labels available for us for this. Then we will take a look at how we can monitor the pod security standard violations through Azure Logantic Workspace, and we will create a user query to get the informations from the Logantic Workspace. So for this we are using Kubernetes auditing logs, and we'll see how we can enable the AKS auditing logs, then how we can use that audit logs for identify these violations, right? Okay, so first we will go and create a Kubernetes cluster, right? So I already have my environment here, so I will go and create a new cluster. Then I will name the cluster as pod security admission. No, sorry. First I will create a resource group. So I will name this as rg-AKS PSA, right? Then I will select the dev test configuration. Then we will name the cluster as AKS PSA pod security admissions, right? Then I will select the region that is closest to you, right? Then I will use I'm not going to use specific availability zones, but yeah, if you are doing a workload with production, then you should select availability zones. Yeah, I will keep the default settings. Then I will click add the node pool. So we'll add the system node pool, because it's in a case you should have at least one system node pool. Okay, then yeah, I will select specific VM size, right? So I will select DS8 for this demo. Yeah, then I will use auto scaling, but it's not necessary for this demo, but you can use it, right? Pod count is also not mandatory here, but yeah. Then I will keep the default as it is. Then I will go to the next section, integrations. Yeah, I don't need these things at the moment, but in the monitoring section what I'll do is, yeah, but the monitoring section also not that needed, but for the sake of this demo I will select my existing Logantic workspace. I'm not going to enable Prometheus and alerts. Then I will keep the default as it is. Then yeah, I don't need manage namespaces, so I will go and click and create and review. So now it's going to validate the my provisioning. So after validation you will see the option to create, so I will click the create, and I will wait a few minutes to complete the provisioning. Then after that we will take a look at the cluster. Okay, now you can see that the cluster is created. So let's take a look at how we can use pod security admission in AKS. So first of all, I need to create a namespace. Then I need to create the workloads in that specific namespace. So let's go and create some namespaces. So first we'll log into our cluster. So I will use the credentials, right? Okay. Then I will create two namespaces, one for privilege and restricted, right? Okay, so you can see that I have created two namespaces. If I type kubectl ns, okay, so you can see those two namespaces. Okay, so next part is labeling these namespaces. For example, uh, there's a namespace for restrictive workloads, so I need to um, I need to add the specific label related to pod security standards, so to apply these namespaces for that specific policy, right? So I will paste it. Okay, so if I go through this labels, so you can see that there are two labels added. So one is the enforced label, so in there I am specifying which profile I'm going to use, so in this case it's be restricted. Then there's another one label for warning, and you have to specify which profile. So the difference between these two labels is this enforce will enforce the policy into the namespace. This warning label will give you a warning when you try to deploy a workload, and by using kubectl or any other mechanism, it will show you a warning saying that this workload is not supported for, not in compliance with pod security standard, profile restricted, right? Okay, so I will label the namespace, right? Then I will label the other namespace as well with the privilege option, right? So here also it's the same. So you are enforcing the privilege profile and you are giving a warning when you deploy workload into this specific namespace. Okay, so next I will going to deploy the sample application, which is Microsoft Word application, right? So first I'm going to deploy it for the restricted, right? So I will use the kubectl apply, right? Okay, so now you can see that there is few warnings appeared here, right? So if you go through these warnings, you can see that it is saying that your security context allow privilege escalation should be false, right? So then there are some capabilities that the application should apply. So for example, in this application the capabilities drop all is not applied. Because of that, it contains other many Linux capabilities available, so you need to, if you want to use a hardening restrictive option, then it should be all the capabilities should be dropped, right? Then run as root is not equal to true, that means the container is running as a root. So likewise there are different violations are there, right? So we'll go and see the deployments, right? For pods in the namespace restrictive, and you can see that the pods are not going to create, right? Because you are violating the pod security standards, right? So because of that, Kubernetes will not allow you to deploy any workloads into that specific namespace. Okay. Now, uh, now let's take a look at how we can audit these type of pod security standard violations, right? So as you can see, it will give you warning, right? But usually when you deploy these type of security related standards, you are not going to enforce these standards in the first go, right? Because these things can be disruptive to the workloads that are already existed in the your cluster. So therefore what we are usually do is we will deploy those configuration as a audit mode, and we will going to monitor that specific is there any workloads that are not compliant with pod security standard. Then as engineers, DevOps engineers, or the team or the required team that can take a look at how we can secure those workloads to meet the pod security standards, right? So therefore, if you are doing it for the first time, it is good you are not applying the enforce at the first place. So you should do audit first and take a look at what type of workloads that are affecting by these type of pod security standard. So yeah, for this how to monitor the pod security violations. So first we need to do some configuration in Azure Kubernetes Service, right? So then we can monitor the auditing events as well, right? So first we'll go to the Azure Kubernetes portal. So in Azure portal, right? Then we'll do some and we have to enable the diagnostic setting of the AKS cluster, right? For that, first you need to go to the cluster, then you need to go to the monitoring section, then the diagnostic settings, right? In there you need to edit the diagnostic setting. In my case, this is already enabled, right? Because I have enabled the container inside. So yeah, but if it is not configured in your environment, then you need to go to the diagnostic setting, and under the logs categories you can select, there are different kind of diagnostic logs you can send to the log analytic workspace, but the most important component is the Kubernetes audit events, right? And the Kubernetes admin audit admin log. These two are very important. So make sure that you select Kubernetes audit and Kubernetes audit admin logs, right? If you select this one, then you need to select the subscription and the log analytic workspace that you need to send these logs. Or if you are using other options, that's also possible. So yeah, it's based on your scenario and requirement. So then you can save the diagnostic settings, then these logs will be available in log analytics workspace. So to demonstrate this auditing option, then what we can do is we can use the label audit label, then it will use the audit mode for pod security standards, right? You can find these pod security standard namespace labels, right? So if you search in Google or in the Kubernetes documentation for pod security standard with namespace labels, then you can find this documentation. Here you can find different labels, right, in the baseline pod security standard with namespace labels. So here you can find example for different type of labels, right? Likewise, you can see how we can apply it to the old namespaces, then how we can apply it to the single namespace like this. So for example, for this I will use this pod security kubernetes.io / audit label, right? So this label I will use it for my auditing purpose, right? Okay, so what I'll do is I will go and create new namespace, right? Audit pod security PSA, right? Then what I'll do is I will add the label, right? So I will get my previous command, right? Okay, so here, yeah, I will keep it as it is, right? Warning restricted, right? So then for this I will use audit, then use the same restricted, right? So what I'll, in this case, the pod security standards are not enforced to that specific namespace because we are using audit mode, right? Because of that, it will show you that there are some violations, but it doesn't block any deployments or workloads of deploying to that specific namespace, right? So I will label with these two, and I will label the namespace with these two, right? So I will label it, right? Then so you can see that I'm auditing the restricted profile, right? So then you should see a lot of workloads will you will see a warning that these things are not matched with the pod security standard profile restricted, right? As we saw previously. Okay, so now I'm going to deploy the same application into the namespace, right? The namespace I have created for auditing purpose, right? Okay, now you can see that we are seeing the same warnings because I have added the label warning restricted, right? So because of that, when you deploy from the CLI or whatever the way, you will see the warnings. These restrictions are these configurations are not compliant with the restricted policy of pod security standard, right? Okay, now you can see then we can go and see whether the workloads are deployed, right? So pods, right, namespaces. Okay, now you can see that your workloads are running, right? So that means in our previous example we saw that if you enforce it, your workloads are not going to deploy for the namespace, right? But we are using audit mode, so therefore the workloads are going to deploy, right? Okay, now you can see, yeah, the one is not just a image pull error, but you get the idea that workloads are provisioning, right? Okay, now the next thing is going to do is we are going to see these violation errors, right, to log-analytic workspace, right? So why it is important? So for example, as I mentioned, if you are going to deploy it for the first time, you need to monitor it, how the things are working. So what you can do is you can build a query in log-analytic workspace and trigger alert and you can create a workflow from the alert as well. So then you will get notified if there are any violations, right? So then you can take necessary action to mitigate that violation. So fix those violations from your team's development team or your infrastructure team, right? So that's why it's important to audit it first, and logging can help you to identify those violations, right? Okay, now let's take a look at how we can check it, right? Okay, now we saw that there are violations are there. So now we are going to take a look at how we can monitor these violations to log analytic workspace. So first you need to go to the log analytic workspace. So you can use logs here, and then it will open the log analytic workspace, right? Then you have to go to the Azure diagnostic, right? Then if you click the Azure diagnostic, you will see a lot of um, logs generated on log analytic workspace for here, because it is, if you have multiple workloads in Kubernetes or um, using other Azure services, if you enable diagnostic settings in those services, it comes, those diagnostics are ingested into this Azure diagnostic table, right? So but you can do filtration based on the resource type, so that's what I'm going to do. So I will add a filtration to get any logs related to managed clusters. So I will run it again, then you can see the result is less result. So I will narrow it down to the specific workload resource type. Then if you saw this, if you have seen this one, then you can see there are some categories, right? So you can see different categories: Kube API server, then cloud control manager. If you remember, when I enable the diagnostic settings in Kubernetes, there are different type of logs type you need to enable. So these logs types are equal to the categories for these diagnostic settings, right? Then likewise you can see different categories, right? But the most important category that we want to look into this is these audit logs, right? I can't remember exactly what I think this pod security standard is coming on kube audit admin. So let's include this into the filter, then we will see the event, right? So there you can see multiple events, right? So I will make it for UTC time. Then if I do a drop down of one of these logs, then if I click the logs, then under the annotation sections, yeah, it is not there, right? Yeah, but what I'll do is I will get a different one, because these audit logs has a different they are going to log multiple things, right? So okay, so what I'll do is, right, I will add a filter, right, where logs contains we will put specific label so we can identify it, I think. So yeah, we are going to find it, right? Yeah, so here you can see I am narrowing it down to specific content within the logs section. So here if I go to logs, then this violation is not under any kind of normal objects or anything, it is coming under the annotations, right? So in here you can see that in the annotations you can see a specific annotation called pod security kubernetes.io audit violations, right? So then here you can see the entire violation error, right? Error means violation context, right? So the same, this is the same output that we get from the CLI as a warning, right? So you can see the similar uh, value in here, right? So this is how we can see the violations are happening. So what you can do is you can yeah, fine tune this query to only uh, get these annotation. You can use JSON parse in KQL, right? To because these are going as JSONs, right? So you can pass it to JSON and you can create a JSON output and filter it based on the what you need, right? So then what you can do is you can create a from here you can create a new alert and you can include your query to the alert and you can generate an alert for it, right? Okay, so um, that's all for this demo, right? It's a very small thing that you can do in Kubernetes, but in AKS, but it will give you more. It will increase your security on your cluster, and you can use uh, you can reduce the attack surface and privilege escalations in your cluster. So I highly recommend this for enabling in your cluster. And as I mentioned, please be aware of the workloads that are running. So because of that, don't try to enforce it in the first place. So do some auditing and analysis before you are going to enforce it for your workloads, right? Okay, so yeah, that's all for this. I hope you um, have enjoyed this video and learned something new. Uh, and we will see you in a similar video, and thank you very much. We'll see you.